Hi, I'm Lisa Jones, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. Joining me today are Jeff Haecker. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Lisa.
And Victor Lambs.
Hi, Lisa.
And Jack is not with us today because he is busy raising a new Orsi.
Yay. Or wait, not yay, but yay.
Oh. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yes, congratulations.
Today we are discussing the opening episode of Season 10 of Stargate SG-1, Flesh and Blood. This episode picks up immediately after the Season 9 finale of Camelot. Carter is adrift in a spacesuit alongside the Supergate, and the Korolev was destroyed by the Ori, but Mitchell manages to escape at the last minute. The Odyssey has major damage, but picks up Mitchell, Carter, and any survivors. The Jaffa and Lucian Alliance ships are similarly decimated, but Teal'c is captured and tortured by the Lucian Alliance, which threatens to attack the Odyssey. Vala gives birth to a daughter, and it is revealed that her daughter Adria is aging rapidly and possesses exceptional intelligence, along with an unwavering devotion to the Ori. Vala is caught in a maternal protection for her daughter and hatred for the Ori. We find that Daniel managed to ring off the Korolev onto the ship with Vala, and Vala finds him and helps him hide. Bray'tac arrives just in time to defend the Odyssey from the Lucian Alliance ships, and then the Odyssey beams Teal'c back, and then SG-1 goes off and joins Bray'tac to Teal'c to try to stop the Ori again. Vala and Daniel decide to try to take Adria off the ship with them. But on the Ori ship, Toman captures Daniel. During the scuffle, Daniel and Vala are beamed aboard the Odyssey at just the right moment, as well as Bray'tac decides to use his ship to ram the Ori ships over Mitchell's protests, and the Odyssey arrives to beam them off as well. The team is back together, and Mitchell decides they need a new plan. What did you think of this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, I like this one. It's definitely like the part two. Like you said, it's of course, it's the season premiere that picks up on the cliffhanger, and we didn't have to wait, several months, or I forget how long it actually was back then. But I enjoyed it a lot. It had good action. Everyone kind of had something to do. Even Teal'c, he was mostly getting tortured the whole time, but he at least everyone had something to do, which was nice. And it does, Vala's back and is kind of back with the team, though she's not on the team. But I like that, I like everybody's kind of back together, and, we've lost some people. I think they say that some people get off the Korolev, but we don't ever know who. So Colonel Chekhov is probably not one of those, unfortunately. So I don't think he returns in any capacity. So, and yeah, we get it's really just a good setup for the season, and we get introduced to Adria, though it's not the adult Adria that will become kind of the main character of this, one of the main characters of the season, or the main, I guess, antagonist of the season. So overall, it was pretty good, a lot of good setup, and I think it's enjoyable.
That's good. How about you, Victor?
Yeah, I'd agree with Jeff. It was a good continuation of the previous episode, which, if you'll recall, I didn't like very much. It was nice to hear Colonel Mitchell acknowledge that they didn't have a plan in the previous episode. And basically, Bray'tac's plan of ramming the Ori ships is pretty much what they were doing last episode. And so it's nice that Colonel Mitchell says, dying pointlessly is not something he wants to do, and that they need to come up with a plan. And that's kind of where the episode ends, is he says, we need a really good plan. And he looks around and nobody has a plan yet. But so hopefully they get one soon. I'm all about the plan, people. Work the plan. But I liked it. There was a lot of really good CG in this, good ship battles. We're all over the place. We're bouncing back between, the various ships, and Sam out in space, and Teal'c again we see. So I liked it. I thought the child actors playing Adria were very good. Again, one of my pet peeves is whenever there's a pregnancy on a show and they have a baby, like artificial aging of the child to make it interesting. So you're not, going like 10 seasons before, the child can talk and move around and stuff. So that's kind of a pet peeve. They did it in Angel too, where Angel's son was like temporarily moved to another dimension and comes back as like a 14-year-old and stuff. But what can you do? It would be pretty, this is more interesting than the alternative, I guess.
Probably so. Back in the day, soap operas used to do that. They would send the kid
Yeah.
upstairs, and then like 2 weeks later, the kid comes down 10 years old.
Yeah. It's better than having a CG baby walking around and talking and
That's
leading
true.
the Ori, I guess.
Well, I agree. I thought that the episode had really good pacing, and you had two major storylines that didn't really compete with each other, but they had a lot going on. There was Vala on the ship, which actually was, I know I've really said not nice things about Vala, and starting with the end of season 9, and then now I really see how much her character has grown, and I really enjoyed watching her struggle through this. It's like she matured a whole lifetime in just a half a season or just a few episodes. But the SG-1 aftermath of the battle, I think that because we really kind of struggled with the fact that they just went out there and got their rear ends kicked at the end of the season. That one was a little more all over the place for me because you had got to get Carter back on the ship. What happened to Mitchell? Where did the Odyssey go? Can that can they get the beaming technology back? Do they have life support? There's like all this chaos. Then you've got Teal'c, being tortured with the Lucian Alliance, and the Lucian Alliance is like, I'm going to threaten you. And then it was just a lot. But at the same time, it gets us ready just to jump into the rest of season 10. So without just saying 3 months later, where they just talk about it. So let's start with Adria. What did y'all think about, last we saw Vala, she was pregnant, which I think, Victor, you had pointed out that it was written into the storyline really simply because the actress was pregnant. And then they create this whole, she's having the Ori's baby out of it. And it becomes a major plot point this season.
Yeah, they knew they needed to put a face on the Ori. They couldn't just be the priors, and the priors are kind of just mindless followers. They needed somebody with a little bit more autonomy to speak for the Ori and be the face of the Ori. And when Claudia Black came back pregnant, that's how they worked it in. And Robert C. Cooper on the commentary did acknowledge that they got some blowback, about the parthenogenesis or parthenogenetic pregnancy. But again, he reiterated they weren't really taking any digs at religion. It was just necessary given the conditions that they found themselves in. And so it worked in nicely with needing that face of the Ori and gives Vala something to do.
I like the introduction of Adria. Of course, like I said, it's not going to be the main actress who plays Adria throughout the season, but I thought the kind of the little kid one that first started talking was a little bit. They're child actors, so I can't. I'm not an actor in any way, so they probably did better than I could. But I'm glad they didn't stick with the little child and they kind of moved up to the I guess preteen teen actress to play, and I can't remember if she comes back again or if it moves on to the adult Adria. But I thought that their interaction was pretty good, and really it did set up an interesting angle of Vala thinking maybe we can use this to our advantage and we can try to humanize, we can advocate to her, and I'm her mother. And I did like that aspect that she doesn't immediately she still has a maternal connection to Adria, unlike Daniel, who's basically we need to kill the child. She kind of says at the end. So I did like Adria's portrayal and kind of initial appearance here. So and yeah, she does become a much bigger part of the season. She's kind of the main antagonist throughout this and the second to last SG-1 movie. So I did really like that, like her portrayal.
Yeah. The 4-year-old Adria, the very first one we see, that is Robert C. Cooper's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he didn't mention that on the commentary, but what they had done is they had cast a 4-year-old actress for the part, and then did the rehearsals and everything fine, but came onto the set, and they got as much of the crew out as they could, but the actress was being 4, just kind of stunned and shell shocked by everything, the cameras, the lights, and wouldn't do it. So they shot around her, and then much later they had I guess Robert C. Cooper's daughters come in and just do her lines as kind of necessity. You know, they couldn't find another actress, and so they worked with what they could. And then the slightly older Adria, the middle one, Jodelle Ferland, has been in everything. She's one of those child actresses in Vancouver, and so she's been in many different shows, and she'll be on Atlantis later. So I think she did a really good job, and he did acknowledge that it's really hard to find 3 child actors who all even kind of look the same, and to get around that, they did as much as they could with covering up, you know, the hair and as much of the body with the costume. And what looks like contacts, at least on the 4-year-old, was all visual effects, because you can't, you know, put prosthetic contacts into a small kid.
That's why it was really creepy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd read that online, that Robert C. Cooper's daughter filled in because the other actress, you know, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Something happened and she couldn't do it. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And she didn't go on to do a lot of acting. Like, that was her kind of only, at least on IMDb, her only real thing on there. So.
And Tim Guinea, who plays Toman, the original actress, he was even like trying to like coax her out of her shell by juggling and doing all these like antics and stuff. But it didn't work in that case.
Oh, 4-year-olds.
Yeah, my kids would have turned around and ran. So
yeah, exactly.
So Toman juggling in the actual show, that would have given him a little bit more.
Kind of might fit his character,
personality,
right? Yeah. I thought watching Vala become a mother and then realizing that the scene where the baby is taken immediately from her was actually really powerful, because Vala's never been exactly, you know, touchy-feely, whatever. And so to see that kind of change in her was really interesting. And then to watch her deal with Adria, and you're not sure if she is in survival mode that she was in all those years before we started seeing her on SG-1, where she was manipulating and becoming whoever she needed to become to survive and do what she needed to do. Or if, I mean, I think a real part of her loves Adria as her child, but you can like see the wheels turning of, okay, like, this is dangerous. Like, this is really dangerous. This is not really just my child. And what do I need to do? And the part I thought was interesting is that she didn't really, except for a little part, she didn't really seem fearful of her or afraid of the child knowing that she doesn't believe in origin.
Yeah, I don't get fear. She was doing some manipulation, as she explains to Daniel. Vala explains to Daniel later in the episode, but you know, she's making the most of the situation and the time that she has with Adria.
Yeah.
Adria too is saying she wants to, I mean, like they say in the episode, they don't want to kill, you know, all the humans in this galaxy. They want them to worship the Ori. So Adria she says, she talks to Vala about, you know, you'll believe one day, I'll show you the way. So she is trying to, so, you know, it shows that maybe Adria is not, you know, like, she's her own person. She's in some ways, and that maybe she could be, maybe there's an angle there that, like we were saying, that they can use she's a human and not an ascended being. So, or at least partially human. So they can maybe use that in their, you know, pursuit of trying to stop the Ori.
You know, they did bring that up, that this was the Ori trying to like thread the needle in the galaxy with the ancients. And I don't remember a lot about season 10 and the ancients themselves, but this does everything they told us last season about the ancients have this galaxy and then the Ori have this galaxy, and so they bring it up here. And I can't remember if they're going to flesh this out or if they just kind of hang a lantern on. No, like, we can have Adria, so therefore the Ori the ancients aren't going to come and get rid of the Ori. And you know, it just seemed like, oh yeah, that is a problem. They're not supposed to come to our galaxy, but they are.
Yeah, and Adria says some things that we haven't heard on the show before, that the ancients in the Milky Way created the humans to worship them. And I think she's just lying at that point, because that's not consistent with what we've seen. But it would suggest that the humans in the Ori galaxy are kind of like a parallel evolution or something, that they're not part of the ancient, you know, reboot of the human race.
I thought that was great that she took it and turned it.
Yeah, and there is some stuff this season where they kind of reference the Ancients' involvement, and we do see some of that later this season. So yeah, I think it's more that the Ori can't come to this galaxy in their ascended forms because the Ancients are here and can stop them. So it's not so much they can, it's that if they came in, they would just be fighting the Ancients, and they would, lose power, I guess, from there. So they're, like you said, they're using this as to sneak away in, because they had Orlin. They talk about Orlin, who came back, but he was, came back in a very limited way, because of course he came back in a child's body, and he was quickly losing the knowledge. And so, yeah, I don't know if they ever explained how they were able to do this with Adria and not Orlin, but yeah, there is some stuff later this season about the Ancients kind of being involved.
So they can't physically come, but they can send their humans to fight.
Yeah, and maybe because Adria is half human, or to some degree human, and Orlin wasn't.
Yeah,
I guess Orlin could have come in as Samantha Carter's baby, but that would have made it even weirder.
That would have been very strange. So that's the plan for the Ori now, is like, we're going to almost destroy everything. They said that about the Supergate. They didn't kill everyone because they wanted us to live and tell the tale of their destruction and power. And then you've got the humans coming across to make, the Ori ships to make. So that's the new thing. They're not going, they can't kill everybody because they need them to worship them.
Yep. And so we do see a prior in this episode. He has one eye. Every time I saw him, I just thought of Robin Williams in the Popeye movie. He's
oh no.
Oh, Vala, we're going to take care of baby slayers. What we're going to do,
that's kind of what he brought to mind for me. But he has all of his prior powers and is able to, deactivate Daniel's weapons and, take the guns out of his hand and stuff. So
all the fun prior stuff.
Yeah.
They do, I think they're trying to bring up this whole, not to touch too much on religion, because this whole origin thing gets a little, I think you said it last season on the podcast, Victor, like they're trying really hard to, maybe they weren't trying hard. Maybe they just were just going to ignore what they've done and how it could really offend a lot of Christians. And we're just supposed to ignore it. But Daniel has this whole, free will. We don't have to worship. We can believe or not believe origin. And I think that's going to come in, I don't say nicely, with his arguments with Vala and Adria, and what's kind of going on, that no, we humans, I don't know. It's just, I don't even like to think about how they set up the Ori and the origin, and I just, okay, I don't want to think about it. Never mind.
Yeah, and on the commentary, Robert C. Cooper said, it's like, we weren't really singling out any one religion. We just wanted it to be, a representative of all religions, but it's really not when you have them speaking Latin and dressed up as priests and, and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because, obviously there are some religions that, studios won't touch, but.
Yeah, but this one was fair game. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just put a pin in that like they did.
Yeah.
Just, ignore that for a minute. So we have SG-1 is out to fight the Ori. Again, like everybody got killed. Wait, do we want to talk about Lucian Alliance? Do we care?
Yeah. So they do have more ships, as I mentioned last time, and they're just really mad that the battle didn't go well. So the last remaining one with Natan. They say it, I've heard it both ways, as they say. He's just really mad at Teal'c and just wants to torture him, which he does off screen. Teal'c's hair looks a little weird in this episode. Robert C. Cooper put out, it's Teal'c, shaves his own head and stuff, and had shaved kind of his hairline up a little high.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, and so he came back and his hairline was, not as high as mine, but, and so they kind of coax it down over the course of the season, they said. But And his makeup, he was wearing a lot of makeup in this episode too, and I'm not sure exactly why. But so the Lucian Alliance kind of wants to attack or destroy the Odyssey, but not sure what that would get them other than, revenge, but they really don't have the ability to. And so we don't really get a sense of, it's a race against time, like those World War II submarine movies where like both ships are disabled and who's going to get their, torpedo bays, functioning first and take out the other one. And I think we've seen that in Star Trek a bunch of times too. We don't really get that because there's just so much going on. We have Sam out floating in space and we check in with her a couple times and she's like, I've only got 4 hours of oxygen left. And then she's like, I'm running out of air here. But again, there's no sense of, because we don't check in with her and really see her starting to suffer and lose consciousness or anything. We don't really get a sense of, peril there.
And they don't seem that concerned. They got so many other things. There's so many other things they're worried about. Yeah.
And we do get it. This was amusing. We do get a flashback of Daniel escaping the Korolev. Their plan is to use the ring transporter to beam a nuke on board. And in the original cut, because the way they have it cut now is Daniel runs into the ring transporter room and then we see the blast that takes out the Korolev. They show that. And so from that, it's like, oh no, the ship's being destroyed. I have to escape. The way they had it originally scripted and edited was the blast came after Daniel escaped, which is more realistic, but it made Daniel look like he just ran into the ring transporter room and then ringed himself out. Oh. Like he was just like running away. He's just like, not going to bother with the nuke. I'm out of here, type thing. And so they had to put in the blast of the Korolev being destroyed before Daniel, used the ring transporter and escaped. Otherwise it looked like Daniel just like ran into the ring transporter room and just got off the ship.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I was almost wondering why didn't Mitchell just fly the F-302 over to Sam and grab on,
have her hold on to the wing, and
or
Superman.
Or when you think, you'd think that the F-302s would also have some kind of like cable or grapple or something. Yeah. So I thought that, but of course it wouldn't have made for. They couldn't have done the dramatic scene of the Odyssey going and picking her up.
Yeah. And she's like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
If you hit me at all.
One speed.
Yeah. And then I thought they did that scene very well. And Robert C. Cooper even pointed out, he's like, yeah, Sam isn't to scale against the Odyssey. The Odyssey is much bigger. But if we did that, you wouldn't be able to see her, or it would just be these huge panels of the Odyssey flying by and you wouldn't get a sense that it was a ship. So they kind of played with the scale there a little bit. I think it works. It still shows the Odyssey is a big ship. So
it has drama, it was nice, and all that.
Yeah, it was nice seeing that scale too, because you get a sense of the Ori ships are even bigger than this. Because they throw out the numbers that the Supergate is this wide, the Ori ships are this big, and the Odyssey is and the motherships are smaller compared to it. But then when you see Sam compared to the Odyssey, you really get a sense of how big these Ori ships are. So I thought that was a nice visual.
Yeah, we actually get to see one parked on Teal'c, and I thought that was a very effective visual too, because it's just sitting on the edge of the city and it's like bigger than the city.
Yeah, that was pretty cool scene.
Yeah, and we get their little Ori fighters that I'd forgotten we see those, like their little fighter ships. So I thought those were kind of I thought those were kind of cool too. I don't remember if we really see them much in the rest of the show, but I thought they were kind of cool.
So what'd y'all think about SG-1 going, yeah, let's go over to Teal'c and fight the Ori again? Like we just lost.
It was a little. They even say, Mitchell even says to Bray'tac at the end, it's like, you didn't invite us. We don't have to be here. And I don't know why Mitchell wants to pop over there, but Sam is concerned about Teal'c or Daniel who would be on one of the ships and stuff. And of course Teal'c wants to go and but
it was nice to see. We haven't seen a ton of Bray'tac in the last couple seasons, so it was really nice to see him pop up. I'd forgotten that he pops up, and if you think about it, how many guest stars we had are actually, not our main characters. So we had Bray'tac, and we had General Landry. Yep. We had Woolsey.
Yep.
Which, Walter, Chekhov. We had the Prior. We had, how do you say the Asgard one? Vasir?
Vasir, yeah.
You don't say the K.
No.
Emerson, of course, on the Odyssey. And then we had the random guys from the Lucian Alliance. And then we even had Teal'c show up, which we haven't seen Teal'c in forever. So it was kind of like the kitchen sink thrown in there.
Yeah, and the scene with Woolsey's a little weird. It's and the commentary explains kind of why they put the scenes in. So Landry is there and Woolsey's like, but you just lost all these ships. And then Landry says like, if I had the budget that these know-nothing politicians have to run my... And politicians don't get paid very much, so, I don't know. But they actually, whenever they have the IOC is kind of a stand-in, and they didn't list Sci-Fi Network by name, but Robert C. Cooper was saying that the IOC is basically a stand-in for the parties that will come in and cut the show's budget, or make demands that aren't really realistic and stuff. And so when he puts that in, it's just a chance for the writers to get a little dig at these unseen forces, probably the Sci-Fi Network, but it wasn't named, who come in and say, now you have to do it with less money, or so the line about if I had all the money, we could really give them what for.
Well, that suddenly makes that make sense, because it felt very odd.
Yeah.
Very odd. I don't know. It's like, I was
what
wondering
would the program do with another $2 million? Not much.
Yeah.
Well, because do we know when the season, when SG-1 was, when they decided not to renew it for another season? Like, were they already in production and writing it? At this point.
It was announced right after the 200 episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
they
I
may
don't
not have known yet.
It was pretty late in the production schedule, if I remember correctly. I think they wrote, when we get there, but I think they wrote the finale episode before they got notice of cancellation. Like, they recorded it after, but I think they'd written it before that. So at this point, they were still hoping for season 11.
Yeah.
They were setting up for future.
And based on what Joseph Malazzi has said, there's a scene later on, they were just writing things and putting them in and assuming that the studio would catch them when they saw the dailies and tell them to take it out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a scene where Teal'c attends a theater performance, which I won't spoil, but they just put that in there thinking, like, at this point, who cares? They'll see the dailies, they'll tell us to take it out, it'll be fine. And they didn't, and it made it into the show. So
it's a very weird,
yeah. And so things get weirder towards the end of the series, because basically I think Sci-Fi had written it off, and they weren't really following up on much at that point, and the writers were just kind of having fun with things.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was trying to think who directed this episode. Was it
William Waring?
And he's done done many, hasn't he?
Yeah, he came in season 3 or 4 as an assistant director, and then started directing episodes, I think, after season 4, maybe 6 or 7, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe later. But yeah, and so, I think he did a really good job with this episode. You can see him kind of cribbing from Martin Wood. There's a walk and talk on the Odyssey where Martin Wood's trick is when he wants to do a walk and talk, but there's not that much set. He just has, the camera kind of go around in circles. So they have that one hallway that kind of goes around in circles, and you see different extras in the background as they make different passes to, can kind of suggest that it's a much larger hallway they're walking down. So we get one of those. I thought that was nice. Teal'c has his sling from being tortured, and just as he's walking down the hallway, he doesn't say anything. He just kind of strips the sling off, and he's like, I don't want this. I don't need it.
That was good.
Yeah.
One thing I really enjoyed was Mitchell pushing back. Bray'tac did the whole thing, like, we die free, we die noble. Bray'tac's always wanting to die. I mean, ever since we've met him in like season 2, and usually it was Jack always, not today. But so I thought it was kind of nice that Mitchell did it, and he did it in a Mitchell way, not like he was trying to emulate O'Neill. So that was kind of fun. And I can't remember what he said exactly, but
like hopeless, meaning like hopeless death in battle is good, but if it's a pointless, if you're
like
going to lose anyways, Yeah.
Like I'm all for a noble death, but not when it's pointless. Is
Yeah.
kind of
So-
what he says.
So what's funny is we know there are other Jaffa on all these vessels, not many, because he said, it's kind of a skeleton crew, and Bray'tac's like, I handpicked the people for this mission myself. And so at the end, Bray'tac is like augering the ship into the Ori shields, and he and SG-1 escape, but
that's
presumably all the other Jaffa on the ship are like, hey man, what's going on? Like, why
I
are we
didn't
flying
even
towards the
notice.
Ori ship? Oh, well, at least we're going to die with Bray'tac. We'll die, we'll die with the greatest hero of the free Jaffa.
Oops.
And then they get to Jaffa Heaven, I forget what it's called, and they're like, hey, where's Bray'tac? Oh, wait, he didn't die on the ship that he aimed at the Ori? And, okay.
Well, to be
guess we'll
fair-
just wait for him.
Bray'tac thought he was going down with the ship, but Mitchell slapped the tracker thing on him, so
Yeah.
he thought.
And I guess like I kind of took it as there weren't like the other ships had the other Jaffa, that there weren't like that SG-1 and Bray'tac were on the one with Bray'tac, and there wasn't really anyone else there. But
No, there were other, because Mitchell comes in,
Okay.
he's like, I noticed you have a skeleton crew here
Mhm.
and
Okay.
running the ship. And because it's a mothership, it does take people to run it. I don't know what a
Yeah.
skeleton crew would be, if it's 20 Jaffa or 10 or 50, but
Yeah.
and we do get to see the Goa'uld mothership crash into the Ori shields, and it's not effective at all. It just kind of breaks up into a bajillion pieces.
Well, and then they beamed the nuke over there allegedly, but then nothing happened.
Yeah, that was kind of unsatisfying too. It's
Yeah.
like, did it make it through and just not explode? Or because we know that you can ring things through to Ori ships, because Daniel did that while the shields were up even. So
did they say they were actually do that? They actually did that though. I know that was the plan,
Yeah.
but I didn't catch that they like actually said the bombs are away or
Yeah.
anything like
Yeah.
that.
no, he said it should have gone off by now, or something should have
okay.
happened
Yeah.
by now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I expected some follow up as to what happened or why or this, but I mean maybe later, but no.
At some point, just
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, we don't have any bombs. Sorry, we can't ring one over," and then you're like left with, do
Ramming
we
the
crash the
ship.
ship or not?
Yeah. And then we jump back to Daniel and Vala, and their relationship has evolved. He was
Yeah.
a little nicer, also more accepting of her. I'm gonna throw in, because my young adult daughter is still home and she watched this with me, and she just gonna say when Vala dressed Daniel in his armor, that was it for her. She was like, now she wants a screenshot of that to put next to her
Oh, okay.
painting of Daniel Jackson on her wall. So she thought that was a very good look for him. Not sure why.
I did appreciate, makes him look a little bit more beefy and Judge Dreddy. I did appreciate Vala trying to explain the weapons. Daniel's like, so this is just stun, right? It's not going to kill anyone. And she's like, yeah, little one stuns, big one kills. But if you shoot them multiple times, you might kill them. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking like a
Zach gun. Yeah.
a handgun. Yeah. And I did like when Daniel finds her, and then he's like, wait, like looking at her stomach. She's like, yeah, I had a baby. And then she starts going off on, now I understand my father. Like, something about I had her. Now she's trying to take over the universe and blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
Yeah.
what? That was a great way to get the audience and everyone kind of caught up in a very Vala way to do it.
And I did like her plan where she was going to talk to Adria, and then she had a catchphrase, which we learned later was "Hallowed are the Ori," to have Daniel come in. And so she just says, "And now I realize, hallowed are the Ori," and then nothing happens. She's like, "No, I really mean it. Hallowed are the Ori." And then Daniel walks in, but of course Toman has seen him and has taken him, captured him.
Poor Toman. I mean, there's a part of me that just sympathy for the guy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But that scene where he and Vala are like snuggling up and Daniel's hiding behind the bed.
Yeah.
And you're just like, how long did that take?
Yeah. And Daniel has his service pistol there. Like, do I need to, and it looks like I watched it a second time and he's like, do I need to like jump up and shoot him or something? But when they're talking like romantically, it looks just like he's about like he's going to point at his head, but they thought that might have been too grim and didn't quite
He
go
did
there.
look like he'd been tortured.
Yeah.
Do we have any foreign language titles for this one?
Yeah, we do, as a matter of fact. In French, most were some variation on flesh and blood. In French, we get l'orici, which is the orasai. In German, we get Fleisch und Blut, which is flesh and blood.
Mm.
And then in Japanese, we got chi toniku, which is blood and flesh. So there you go.
Same then. I like that. Did anyone else think they called her the orasai? I kept thinking of Harcesis.
Yeah.
Like we've had 2 children in that way.
Yeah, similar concept.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did y'all have any final thoughts on this episode?
No, it's a good introduction to season 10, and I'm actually curious, what happens because I've forgotten most of season 10 at this point. I know Fred Willard shows up at some point, and then there's 200, but that's about all I remember.
Yeah, it's not a season I've seen more than like once, so maybe twice.
Yeah, nothing else other than we didn't talk about her naming Adria because of her evil stepmother, which was funny.
Yeah.
That she, because she said that if I ever had a daughter, I would name her my mother's name Adria, and then later she tells Daniel it's my evil stepmother's name. So I thought that was funny.
That's where Vala was doing so good because you weren't sure. Yeah. You thought she was being real, and then you figure out no, she's just doing what she does.
Yeah,
that was awesome. All right. We have some feedback on the I'm trying to think of what episode it was on. I didn't put what episode it was from. Sorry. I think it was Crusade.
Yeah. We'll go with Crusade.
I think it was Crusade. From VarYar77 on YouTube. And they wrote, your comment about not using Michael Ironside in a larger role got me wondering, what actors who weren't guest stars on the show do you all wish had shown up? And then it says bonus points if you can come up with parts for the rest of the Firefly cast.
Oh, yeah. Alan Tudyk would have been awesome on the show. He would have been awesome as like a rogue Jaffa or something. Ted Raimi, I'm sad we never got him on the show just because I love seeing Ted Raimi whenever he shows up in a guest role. Of course, he has to die in every role. That's his in his contract. So, they wouldn't have had to bring him back. Bruce Campbell, of course, would have been awesome to see in while I'm on a, Raimi Brothers kick. I'm sure I'll think of more. We got Saul Rubinek, so I was really glad about that. But yeah, there are so many great actors. I mean, they were working their way through the list of Star Trek actors. Mm-hmm. So I think we got a lot of really good ones there.
Nathan Fillion would have been fun. I don't think he was ever on anything. But when the comment said that, I was like, he does kind of look like Toman. So I'm imagining an alternate universe where Nathan Fillion plays Toman, but then he couldn't have been as funny as he usually is, probably. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Adam Baldwin, that was Jane, right? So. Yeah, he would have been awesome actually he was on the show.
He was on the show, but just
he was in Heroes.
Tiny,
yeah. He was in his Heroes. So yeah, we did get him. So, but it would have been good to bring him back.
I think that if you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think when they brought him on, he was supposed to. They wanted him to do something bigger, but contract or something happened, and he couldn't do it. But yeah, I did look at the cast of Firefly because it's been forever since I've seen it, and so many of them are involved in Stargate in some little bits or pieces. There's a lot of them, but Nathan Fillion obviously and Gina Torres would have been really, really good choices for almost. I mean, the two of them you could do almost anything with, and it would be fun.
Yeah, Gina Torres would have made a great Gould. I
was thinking evil. Yeah.
Or she could have been Teal'c's love interest. I forget the character's name, but the character Jolene Blaylock played, they could have had Gina Torres. She would have been great in like a role opposite Teal'c. I think would have been good.
Yeah, she's very tall, has a nice physical presence, so she would have matched up with him really well. Good. All right, we'd like to take a moment to thank all our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Stargate, like you. Their generous donations make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And you can join us on our Discord at sqpn.com/Discord. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And I think as comments, we'd definitely be interested to hear how well you thought Flesh and Blood, this episode, set the tone for season 10. And do you think they got it right or maybe missed the mark a little bit? We'll be back next time discussing the next episode of Stargate Atlantis, the season 3 opener, No Man's Land. Until then, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Lisa.
And Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Lisa. And remember, the more I get to know you, the more I'm starting to understand.
And once again, I'm Lisa Jones. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?